Hey guys, I am going to take you through the mortgage project right now. Just give me a second to get, here we go. So I will start from the beginning. Okay guys, so what we're going to do is start with parts 1 and part 2. And then after that, we'll move to part 3. I know some of you guys might be doing the whole project at once, but we're actually breaking it up into 2 parts, the first 2 parts and then the last part. So the first thing here, students are going to look for a house. This is the house I selected, $370,000 in Marshfield, Massachusetts. And I'm going to fill out part 1 of my worksheet. And basically there you have it, just my house price, where it is, square footage, and just a few basic things about it. And now for the math, right? I'm going to basically type into my calculator exactly what you see here. Of course, instead of 250,000, yours, whatever your house price happens to be, mine's 369,900. And this is for the TI-83 calculator. So if you're using the TI-84 or a more recent model, it'll be slightly different, but the same basic idea. You're typing basically the exact same thing into your calculator. This is what your calculator keypad is, and right now I'm just going to talk quickly about setting the window. Since we're comparing interest rates to monthly payments, your X is your interest rate. As a decimal, your monthly payment obviously is just a whole number, round to the nearest dollar. What we have to do is we have to set the window. And this is what you're going to have, right? So notice there, X is in increments of 0.01 representing 1%, 0.02 representing 2%, right? And then what you see in this column here is just the monthly payment. So in other words, at 1% interest, your monthly payment will be $1,194. At 2% interest, the monthly payment would be $1,376. That's just how to set the window. You go to second window, you should see this screen. And basically the big thing, delta table there, 0.01, that will make your table, your X values go up by 0.01. So in other words, 1% at a time. Just table start 0, that's just the first value that you're going to see. All right. So again, here is the table. Notice the X's representing the interest rates, the Y's representing the monthly payments at each interest rate. So I'm just going to take what I had on that table, enter it into my data table on the page, right? Again, there you see, look, I just copied it over, put it on the page, right? And then sketching my graph. Now, this might be what students have a little difficulty with. The x-axis is pretty simple. Just make each line, just make it a percent. Very simple. Everyone's going from 1 to 8%. The thing that students are going to have different values for is the monthly payment. So if you guys could read my chicken scratch handwriting here, monthly payments, right, not including property taxes. That's just a talking point, students to know that this does not include property tax. So for instance, if I had a $2,000 mortgage payment, actually my payment I would pay every month might be more like $2,500 because you also would be paying property tax. Anyway, not important for this project, but important for life for those people that wanted to talk about that. But anyway, scaling the graph, I mean, my highest monthly payment was less than $3,000, right? So what I did was I made each line $250. Since there's 12 lines, it worked out. If your highest monthly mortgage payment was, say, $6,000, well, you just have to double the scale, right? So maybe you make every line $500 or something like that. So that might require a little bit of thinking how to scale your y-axis so all your points fit on the graph. But yeah, I think you guys can do it. Okay, now the next thing here is how much are you actually gonna pay for the house, right? So here, this is straight for our data table at 3% interest. You would have a $1,573 monthly payment. Now, why are we multiplying by 360? Right, it's because there are a 30-year mortgage, right? 30 years, 12 months a year, 12 times 30, that's 360 monthly payments. Now, if you multiply out your monthly payment by 360, you're going to notice you pay a lot more than the value of the house. Even with a 3% interest rate, you're paying $566,000, which is almost $200,000 more than the price of the house. And the reason is because you're not just paying for the house, you are also paying for the interest. In other words, the price that you pay for the privilege of borrowing the money over the course of 30 years, right? And number 7 and 8, so at 5%, 7% interest rate, same thing. You're just taking it right out of your data table, a $2,005 monthly payment times 360. Notice as the interest rate gets higher, the more interest. In fact, with 7% interest, you're paying almost triple the value of the house because you're paying so much interest. All right, and now the part 2, this is part 2 that you're seeing here. I believe this is what would happen if you made a down payment. Now, we have to assume an interest rate here. For the purpose of my project, I'm assuming a 4% interest because I just researched interest rates. 3.65 seems to be like a good going rate. And I'm just rounding up to the nearest percent just to keep this kind of simple for me. And you'll see with a 10% down payment, I would be paying $1,604 a month. With a 20% down payment, I'd be paying $1,426, and that's what I'd be paying with the 30% down payment. So the next step is how much would you actually be paying for the house? Now, what you're going to notice is, as we did before, we're multiplying a monthly payment by the number of monthly payments, right? That's how we're getting this number here, right? But the thing that we got to add in is the down payment, because that money isn't going away. You still paid that money originally, right? So that's money you are taking out of your bank account and you are paying for this house. So we add that in the end. Now you're going to notice, you know, here we get a down payment 10%, about $37,000, 20% down payment of $74,000, and then a 30% down payment of over $110,000. Now what you're going to notice is that the total value you paid, your all of your monthly payments plus the down payment, goes down when you put a more of a down payment down. And the reason is because that's less money that's money that you are not paying interest. So in other words, you're still going to buy your $370,000 house. It's just how much you're going to pay right up front where you're just paying that money, and how much are you going to have to pay later where you're going to be paying interest on that money. So that is why, you know, with the 10% down payment, you're going to be paying about $50,000 less than a 30% down. Excuse me, $50,000 more than if you had a 30% down payment. And now I know a 30% down payment, it seems pretty unrealistic for a lot of people, but a 20% down payment isn't. And just as you go up about $50,000 from 10% to 30%, same thing, down 50,000, excuse me, you're going to say a similar thing from comparing a 0% down payment as we did in the original problem compared with the 20% down payment. Anyway, there's other advantages of making a down payment that you guys could talk about with your class and with your teacher. But for now, that concludes part 2. So now part 3, right? What we're doing on part 3 is kind of going backwards, right? So students just researched houses, just what kind of house do you want? Where would you like to live? Now we're going to figure out the kind of house you could actually afford to live in based on your projected salary. Now here, you guys notice I'm a teacher, right? If you're a teacher teaching this class, you are also a teacher, right? So I went on this website that we suggest on the project, Glassdoor.com, I believe, and the average teacher salary is about $57,000, right? So that is a number that I'm going to use for part 3 of my project, right? So as a high school teacher, I'm projected to make $57,000, right? Now, you can't spend all of that on your house. If so, you wouldn't have any money for anything else. So what we're suggesting is you take 20% of that money and you say, all right, that's how much money I would have to pay for my house. So for me, $11,347 a year. Now, of course, that is 20% of your gross income, and anyone will tell you that you don't actually have $56,000 if you make $56,000 because you got to pay taxes, right? So that's why 20% doesn't seem like a lot, but you consider it's your gross income, right? You know, it actually is, it is a lot of money, right? So here, of course, there's 12 months in a year. I want to know what my monthly payment could be. So of course I divide that number by 12 and I get this number, $946. That is the number that I have available for my mortgage payment. Right. I just another detail too here, you guys, since you're not talking, you got taxed on your income, right? So you don't actually have this much money, right? And then the other thing you guys probably remember from part 1 of this project is when you have a house, you also pay property taxes. So you're paying taxes on your income, but you're also paying taxes on your house, right? So even though 20% seems like not much money at all, $946 probably doesn't seem like much money. Keep in mind, if I'm saying I'm paying $946 for my mortgage and my principal, I'm also going to be paying property tax on top of that. So anyway, I'm sticking with my 20%, my $946. And now I plug it into my equation from my calculator. Basically, the equation you see here, type in keystroke for keystroke. Again, this is for a TI-83. So if you guys are using a different model, it'll be slightly different, but very similar. And your data table should still be set from parts 1 and 2 in the project. And what you guys are going to notice here is the lower the interest rate, the more expensive a house you could afford. It makes a lot of sense, right? If you're paying more interest, that's money that you're not able to pay towards your house, right? So you could buy a less expensive house. So I think the estimated number we said before was a 4% interest rate based on current interest rates, right? So I would not want to buy a house for more than $196,000 based on, you know, this calculation, this formula, right? Now, here it is. This is exactly what I typed into the calculator, right? And then this is my data table. So again, if it was only 1% interest rate, which you'll never get, right? I could buy almost a $300,000 house. But the real situation, which by 4% interest rate, right, I could only afford a less than $2,000 house. So now you guys probably noticed as you looked at very few houses are under $2,000. So that's discouraging if you're a teacher on a single income, right? But I'm going to plot it, right? We see how basically just plotting my points right there, scaling my axes, right? 300,000 is my high end because that's the most expensive house I could ever afford with any interest rate, right? And then, you know, made each line like 25,000. But now, okay, so back to where I was before, right? A 4% interest rate, I could only really afford a house for $196,000, right? But what I could do, if you guys remember from part 2, what I could do is I could save for a down payment. Now, what I have here is a solution that, you know, I came up with, that if I took that $946 a month and I could actually bank that, I could save that for 5 years. You know, I'd have over $50,000. So I could, if I still wanted to carry a $196,000 mortgage, right, which is what I can realistically afford, right, doesn't mean I can only buy a $196,000 house, because if I save for a down payment, right, I could actually buy a $250,000 house. So those of you guys, as you are looking at houses, yeah, maybe there wasn't much for under $200,000, but you guys did find a significant amount of houses for, you know, $250,000. Right. Now, granted, if you have 2 incomes, right, you can always probably afford a bigger house, but I always suggest that you build your budget around 1 income, especially if you don't have 2 consistent incomes, which of course is what you're assuming for this project. Right. So anyway, I believe, yeah, that concludes our presentation of parts 1, 2, and 3 of the mortgage project. If you have any questions, by all means, go back to the video. You can watch it over and over again, or you could ask your teacher to fill in some of those details. So good luck on the project, and I'll see you guys in our next video.